She was 75 years old, living alone after her husband passed away. Her days were quiet, predictable, and mostly solitary. Then, the phone rang. On the other end was her daughter, crying, terrified, and screaming for help. A second voice took over the line, delivering a sharp, calculated ultimatum. Her daughter's life was in immediate danger, and the only way to secure her release was to wire $80,000 right now. There was no time to think. In that moment, logic evaporated. She didn't pause to ask for proof of life or question the logistics. Driven entirely by the primal need to protect her child, she transferred her entire life savings in a matter of minutes. The scammers relied on a calculated biological reaction. Introduce enough sudden panic, and a target's emotional response will completely override their critical thinking. The panic only broke hours later, when the dust settled. Her daughter answered her regular cell phone, perfectly safe and completely unaware of the crisis. She had never made the call. This glowing playhead scanning an audio waveform shows exactly how an AI voice clone operates. It only takes a few seconds of someone speaking in a public video or social media post for an artificial intelligence model to isolate their specific vocal patterns. The software algorithm maps the exact pitch, tone, and emotional inflection of that sample. It then synthesizes those variables into entirely new sentences, generating a seamless, lifelike audio file in real time. By simulating a daughter's voice, the scammers bypassed the target's logical filters and targeted the one relationship she trusted most. They replaced her financial security with a permanent sense of paranoia. For weeks, she sat in her empty house, blaming herself. But eventually, the crushing grief over losing her life savings began to calcify into a quiet, obsessive rage. She refused to accept her status as a victim. Her thoughts narrowed down to a single consuming goal: finding the people who stole her money and delivering the punishment herself. And then, the 75-year-old widow simply vanished. She left her quiet suburban home without a word and disappeared without a trace. A lifetime of quiet isolation had hidden the grandmother's true capabilities. When the scammers stole her savings, they inadvertently triggered the survival instincts of a professional. 6 days later, a breaking news report flashed across television screens. A violent altercation had just left multiple casualties at a compound in a completely different state. This map demonstrates how she tracked them down. She hired a rogue cyber expert who followed the scammers' expanding digital radar pings across state lines, isolating their network to a specific server hub. The local authorities arrived to find the headquarters in ruins. The servers were smashed, the communication lines severed, and every operator present was physically neutralized. When the police cleared the scene, they arrested the sole perpetrator left standing in the wreckage. It was the 75-year-old grandmother. The cybercriminals assumed they were stealing from a frail, defenseless retiree. They made a fatal error in calculating who exactly was on the other end of that phone line. Following the arrest, standard procedure dictated that investigators search her original home to figure out how a senior citizen orchestrated a precise cross-country strike. Inside, they found hidden compartments built into the walls. They were filled with specialized weapons, multiple passports, and physical evidence that had absolutely nothing to do with a digital voice scam. The evidence cataloged inside those walls linked this seemingly innocent grandmother to a string of severe, violent crimes and unsolved cold cases stretching back decades. Society naturally profiles people based on age, gender, and demeanor. By expecting danger to look a certain way, we leave ourselves entirely blind to the threats hiding behind a gentle smile. The investigation soon uncovered a second layer to the story. The deceased husband she mourned and the terrified daughter she paid to save, they never existed. They were fabricated personas, carefully constructed to maintain her cover. This chart highlights the gap between digital and human fraud. An AI generates a voice clone in 3 minutes. This woman simulated an entire life for 30 years. AI models can mimic a voice, but they cannot engineer a multi-decade cover story involving fake familial ties. The real deception wasn't the code, it was the woman. The technology used in that initial phone call was highly advanced. yet it merely echoed the same mechanics of betrayal that human beings have perfected over lifetimes. While this specific story ends in extreme violence, the underlying threat remains highly active. Right now, automated voice cloning operations are scaling up, specifically targeting vulnerable, emotional populations every single day. If you ever receive an emergency call from a loved one asking for money, hang up and verify their situation directly, or establish a family safe word today. And please, send this video to your parents so they know exactly what to listen for.